Well, I wear my clothes like this because I can. And I wear my hair like this because I can. And I walk around like this because I can. And I do my thing like this because it's who I am. And if you expect me to give you an apology for being nothing that you're used to, go right on ahead, wait, hold your breath and concentrate. Keep holding till your face turn blue. My road ain't your road, it's just I know. I know just where I'm going. My flow ain't your flow, it's just I know. I know just how I'm flowing. I'ma do my thing. Please feel free to hate and complain. I'ma do my thing. Say what you want, but this one ain't gonna change. I'ma do my thing. I can't wear my clothes like you because I'm not.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life in Sync. I'm Mary. We have Erica and Rhonda, and we're just here to do some real talk about real life on today. And so we want to thank everybody for tuning in to Life in Sync on this Tuesday. We're here. So far, it's been every Tuesday at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, and we surely appreciate those of you who've been faithful supporters of Life in Sync, those who've liked, those who've shared. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Hi, Tasha. How you doing today? Some of those comments, sometimes I can't see them because they put them up. So I'm not ignoring you. I just have to wait on the technical people to do their technical. So we just got through. I just got through clowning on Erica, so that's why we. It's all good. So today we're going to talk about the stigma of mental illness, and we're going to talk about mental health. And if you didn't know, the month of July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. So Minority Mental Health Awareness Month because a lot of us may be familiar with the fact that there is a huge stigma within the minority communities concerning mental health. When we talk about stigma, we're talking about a mark of disgrace. You know, when I looked up the definition of a stigma, you hear stigma, sometimes you hear words, you have a kind of an idea of what they mean, but to actually see it, in black and white, stigma means to a mark of disgrace. So I felt kind of bad about that. I said, for someone to need mental health or to need behavioral health for some issue, that it would be a mark of disgrace among us in our community as we look at people who may need to seek those type of things. So, like I said, it is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. We're currently in a pandemic, a time of uncertainty, a time of a lot of mental challenges with isolation, loss of jobs. Hey, Velma. Hey, Velma. Y'all say hey to Velma.
Hey, Velma.
Lots of jobs, and so there's a lot of things that are taking place that can wear on our mental stability. And so we want to just bring some of those things to light concerning mental health. And when I talk about mental health, I'm talking about your psychological well-being or the absence of mental illness, psychological well-being or absence of mental illness. Unfortunately, a lot of times, sometimes when we look at our family history or we look at things concerning our bloodline, we can identify some patterns of mental illness or some issues with behavioral health. Sometimes we don't like to talk about those things. We find ways to cover them up, or we find ways to cope with them as best we can, because a lot of times one of the barriers to getting help for mental illness is education and a lack of understanding. So we want to talk about, those different things. Also, behavioral health. Mental health deals with the psychological well-being, but behavioral health deals with your emotions and your behaviors. So those are two different things that come together to create a scenario that could become a problem. But as far as life and sync is concerned, our issue today is to really talk about the stigma, or to talk about what we can do, concerning the mark of disgrace that is sometimes placed on people, the shunning or the shame that people carry when they do have a mental health or behavioral health problem. So we'll let's go, Rhonda. Go on, kick us off today.
You would do that. No, I'm used to going after Erica. But guess what? So we're talking about mental health, which is, I feel like, is a great topic to discuss. It's often a topic that we shy away from, especially in our community, just like she said, because of the stigma that comes along with it. And I feel like that's the start of people getting help, is being real about it and being truthful and honest, and because if you're not truthful about it or truthful to someone, how can anyone get help? If you never admit that you have a problem, you can never get help. And so I do think that it's very important that as our community that we do recognize and admit, that sometimes, we have family members that have mental illness. And if you would be truthful with yourself, you might just be one situation away from you being a mental patient. Right. So we all have that tendency, you can either teeter this way or you're going to teeter that way. So we have to be real with ourselves. It's just some are able to cope with it better than others. And I do feel that it is a topic that needs to be discussed and very aware. We need to become very aware of it and educate ourselves on it, and don't be afraid. Right. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Right. Go ahead, Miss Erica.
Yeah, and I think we need to, it's good that we need to encourage people to seek help when they are in a crisis or when they are not able to cope with life stressors. I think a lot of times in our community that mental illness is frowned upon because it shows a sign of weakness, or it's a level of weakness, embarrassment for the family, and people shy away from it. They're afraid that if they take medicine, something is wrong with them, or they are less than a person, or they can't function. And it's unfortunate because some people suffer from mental illness and are undiagnosed. So they go through life and, function in their family or dysfunctionally they're dysfunctional in their family. So as people, we have to understand that just because somebody's acting this way, or we say they're crazy, which is like a no-no in the mental health profession, that no, they may just need help. They don't know how to cope with certain situations in their life. So it's important that we redirect people. And if you think about it, people, we pay professionals to get mental health or to get help mentally. So we shouldn't shy away from directing people to get help or to get counseling or to speak to a therapist. So if we have family members, the first person who's going to realize that there is mental illness or something going on in your family is the one who's closest to you. They're going to notice those changes, those subtle things that you are doing that are not quite socially acceptable or are abnormal. So that's when the family member steps in. And when you reach out to a mental health professional, they will know how to guide you. And I'm not exactly sure of each mode or mechanism, how to speak to them, bring them in, this, that, and other, because we're all consenting adults. But at the same time, we need to be able to redirect our family, people close to us, when we see signs of mental illness, whether they're changes in sleep patterns, changes in behaviors, speech differences, weight loss, weight gain, those type things, signs of that there's something going on mentally, possibly. We need to be able to reach out and help them and redirect them to a mental health professional. So there is no shame in it. And there are a lot of people who are mentally ill who are undiagnosed because of fear, because of ignorance. because they just, you know, they just fear being labeled as crazy. And so we have to remove the label. And the way we remove the label is education, letting people know, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a sickness. And I've had this conversation before with one of my colleagues, and she made me understand that mental illness, we treat it the same as blood pressure, diabetes, thyroid problems. You go to the doctor, you get medicine for it, you get educated on how to treat it, and you progress, you manage it. The same way with mental illness. Some types of mental illness, they only require counseling or therapy. Some types of mental illness, you will require medication and therapy. So that's how you remove the stigma, by letting people know, hey, some things happen in life. I can't handle it by myself, or it could be something that's inborn or hereditary, genetic, whatever the case may be. But there's nothing wrong with getting help if you have issues with coping. And in every community, there's somebody who you can reach out to, even somebody within driving distance. So there's always help. They even have emergency crisis centers where somebody can come to your home or come to the facility and assess you and decide whether or not what type of treatment is best for you. So there's always help out there. Always help.
You know, one thing that Rhonda said I thought was so good was that, you know, you never know. You think you're in your right mind, but, you know, you may be one situation away, you know, from a traumatic event.
Yeah.
Or one situation away from something, you know, happening to you, which affects your ability to cope. And so that, and even in thinking about that, we have to be sensitive to the fact that there are people who do need help. You know, you have mood disorders like depression, and anxiety is a huge one, especially now because of things being so uncertain and not really looking as though it's ever going to end or ever going to get better. You know, excessive worry. So, like I said, being in a place, some of those symptoms she called out about weight gain and eating. I'm like, now,
Guilty.
Thought that was just from COVID.
you know, professionally, most you know, guidelines say that, you know, it's normal to have some depression, but if it extends past you know, 2 weeks, then you may want to seek some help, you know, for that particular situation. Most definitely, if you live in an area and you know of mental health professional facilities and you want to drop that information in the comments along with the city and the state, you know, for those who come on here and they may want to seek help, that would be a good idea as well. But you know, we're all Christians and we're all believers, and so every now and then, you know, sometimes we can tend to over spiritualize things.
Yes.
I believe in the power of confession. I believe that God is a healer. You know what I'm saying? But I also believe that God has gifted individuals
Yes.
to meet our needs here in the earth. You know, like doctors and like mental health professionals and behavioral health professionals. So, you know, we always have to be careful not to over spiritualize natural things and seek the natural help along with the spirituality is one thing that I wanted to say. You know, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but that of power, love, and a sound mind. Confess over your mind that my mind is sound. You know that I'm strong. You know what I'm saying? I can get through this. But there are some times and situations where sometimes people can feel so hopeless, or they can feel so anxious, or they can feel like there's such an impending doom or dark cloud over their life where they're at the point where they actually may need to seek help. And it's not something that we should brush off. It's not something that we should take lightly. If we see some things that may be some signs of an issue, then we need to address it. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, especially as related to behavioral health, was as the stigma of children having mental illness. You know, a lot of children are not raised in, you know, what we would call a traditionally stable home. They've seen things, they've experienced things, they've had things done to them, or it just may be a situation where they have behavior problems. And so, especially among like African American community, you know, I think the mindset has changed, but whooping. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily addressing the behavior or the issue can also be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Post-traumatic stress in adults, going through things in life, things that it could have been a car accident that happened 5 years ago. If you hear the
Yep.
sound of traffic, when you're nervous, you know what I'm saying? That's post-traumatic stress. And there's counseling and things that can be done for that. So it doesn't mean that you're just out here in the street eating dirt and walking around naked. That's not what we're
Right.
talking about. We're just
Mhm.
talking about the things that we go through in life that affect our mental health, that affect our behavior, that are affecting our families, that are affecting our children, and what we can actually do to bring awareness to that, to let people know that it is okay to reach out for help, to seek help, um, to do whatever it is you need to do. Because for me as a parent with my kids, I want them to be as healthy as possible. I want to
Absolutely.
raise whole individuals. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's an issue and there's a problem, especially within our children, because sometimes there's some issues and problems that they don't want to tell you about.
Right.
And when
Right.
you know in your spirit that there is something going on with your child, my recommendation would be to send them to a counselor
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
allow that counselor to talk to them in private. And you will be surprised at the things that could transpire and happen just because you sought another person, not it doesn't have to be somebody from a church. We got to kind of church people with the let's go talk to the pastor. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's go talk. But sometimes you need to seek out, you know, uh, another type of professional, somebody who's been, trained in it. It's not necessarily a Christian counseling issue. Your child may
Mm-hmm.
not need to have a demon cast out of them. They might just need some medication for ADHD. They might just
Right.
need
Right.
to tell about something traumatic that's happened that they're afraid to tell you. So we have to keep an open mind, you know, I'm not, I don't tell people how to discipline their kids, but I'm just saying every answer to a child's issues, every answer to a child's problem, every issue to something that's going on in your home is not always a spanking or a whipping or a punishment. There could be some underlying problem. So as parents, we definitely have to be aware and in touch and be discerning concerning our children, which means that we have to be sober in our own mind. We have to be
Right.
conscious and
That's so true.
aware of what is going on, and we have to be making sure that we're getting in the presence of God. You know what I'm saying? So that we can find out what exactly is going on in our particular house, in our particular family, or whatever the situation is, so that we can make sure that we are doing what is necessary to make sure, especially as it relates to our children, that we're giving them the best possibilities to live a healthy adult life.
Absolutely. And Mary, you said something earlier about over spiritualizing mental illness. And I can recall a situation where a lady that I worked with, her husband passed away. He suffered for 2 to 3 years. It was a hard road that she traveled. She continued to work full time. Um, she was working in ministry, had a normal life that she possibly could. So when her husband passed away, and she told me that she was having episodes where she would wake up in the middle of the night and be disoriented, didn't know where she was, or she would think that she was still in that situation. And she told me that she went to the doctor and he prescribed her some medicine, some anti-anxiety medicine. But she told me that some of the members of the church told her that she was wrong for doing that. And I totally disagree with her. And what I told her, and I said, what you need to do what's going to make you a better person. If taking medication is going to help you be stable and help you to function, that's what you need to do. So I think that was a case of over spiritualizing mental health, mental illness, anxiety, depression. And she thought she was really at a crossroads because she didn't know if she needed to take it or not, and she was afraid because these people at the church was telling her, you shouldn't take this medicine. But they weren't the ones who were waking up in the middle of the night, in panic attacks. They were not the ones who were fearful or having nightmares because of what she went through. So of course, I do. You do what you have to do to make you be a better person. And if you know that you have these issues, she went and sought mental health. She went and sought medical attention, and she was prescribed a medication. And just because you get prescribed a medication for mental health, anxiety, depression, whatever the case is, it doesn't mean you're going to be on it forever. In some cases, you are, but it could be, like you said, post-traumatic stress disorder. You had something happen in your life and you need some help getting past it. So you can function. And so it is a possibility that you could wean off those medicines. And I do have to add that if you are prescribed medication, you just don't jump off of it. Hey, I need this medicine. That worked for me. I don't like it, because sometimes you may have a rebound effect. So, I have to put that out there as well. If you are prescribed a medicine, don't just stop, cut it off cold turkey. Always seek your medical professional for guidance.
That's absolutely right. But one thing that I was going to say, as it related, to church as well, or super spiritual, we have to, and one of the things that we might have to do as healthcare professionals is educate, people in the church community concerning mental illness. And I've heard a lot of ministers speak against people taking medication, and actually preaching to people to stop taking their medication, or that the medication was made out of certain, components, and it wasn't, real or something like that. And I feel like people really need to seek, advice from a medical professional before you abruptly stop taking your medicine, to make sure that is what, you're choosing to do, and understanding what the ramifications of that could be if you did not take the medication. So we want to just make sure that you encourage, that we are encouraging people to seek help, that we're not, speaking ill of people who are seeking mental health. But one of the things, when I was thinking about this, is so important, especially as people who are in healthcare. I don't work in mental health, but I do work in geriatrics, which is 75% mental health and behavioral health. But as mental health professionals, we have a responsibility. Our behavior on social media, our behavior in public, are we known in our community as a gossiper? You got all these bad qualities following your name, going before your name, and then you say, I'm a mental health counselor. Well, people may not trust you if they don't see you as being trustworthy, in other settings. So I feel like as healthcare professionals, we have a responsible, and just medical professionals in general, we have a responsibility around the board, because I think some people compartmentalize their life, but they put certain things on display. And so I feel like that may have an issue with people gaining trust for mental health professionals. Because if I know you talk other people's business, but you work at the local mental health clinic and I need counseling, I'm probably not going there. I know you work there. I ain't going there. You consider to be messy, or you consider to be, like I said, a gossiper. You consider to be unprofessional. So, one thing that we have to realize as professionals in healthcare is that people are looking at us. They're looking at how we're at. They're looking at what people are saying about us. They're looking at the fact that, does our life line up, a full circle with what we say we are, and the image that we need to project in the community. And then we need to make sure that we're doing what we need to do as people, meaning that we have to deal with our own issues, that we have to make sure that, we're in, right standing with God, those of us who are believers. We have to make sure that we are treating people with respect. We have to make sure that that people can rely on us and trust us with valuable information. But like I said, when we get a bad reputation, is when that can deter people in the community from actually seeking help in those places for which we do work.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like what Tracy said. Yeah. She was saying that, but she works with youth, and that she's found that it's easier to relate to children when they're in their home, because you can get more on a personal level with them. And I think that it's so true, because when you find people in their home environment, in their natural environment, they have a better tendency to relax. And like you were saying, when people come to you, if you're a mental health professional or just in the community, you're a friend and you are listening and helping somebody, it is when people know that you're a gossiper or that you're not a good listener or that you're a negative person, they won't come to you. And guess what? You may be the, hopefully not, you may be the person who may deter that person from getting the help they need. That person may have been contemplating suicide, and they may have been reaching out and you missed the signs. So I think it's important, if nothing else, I think the general public needs to know, monitor changes in behavior with people. You know, if their behavior, um, if you have somebody close to you, you have to get on the in their natural environment, in their home or somewhere where you know that they can relax and be open with you, so you can direct them to the right place or the right mental health professional. I think it's so
Yeah.
important. And Tracy, I agree with that. A lot of times you get
Yeah.
in somebody's home and on personal level, they can relate to you better. You can help them better.
Yeah. Cause see, the difference is when you go to an office, I'm stepping into it. It feels like I'm stepping into an environment where I can be judged because
Right,
you are
right.
the
Mhm.
professional. You are the expert in this. But
Right,
when you come into my home, into my space, that means you have allowed yourself to really, well, really, it's like you have accepted me for who I am. You know, and it's kind of that's that opening that you give versus that in that professional environment. I can see how that will work a whole lot better with children because they would take that intimidation factor away.
right, right,
Hmm.
right. And that's the wave of the future. People think that they have to go to the clinic or the hospital to get help. You can make a phone call and they can make it happen. So don't think,
Hmm.
oh, somebody's going to see me going into the mental health facility. The word's going to spread that I was at the
Yeah.
crazy house. No, make a phone call. It can be
Hmm.
arranged. It can be. So don't let that shy away.
And
Yeah.
even during this, pandemic, telemedicine and telehealth has become
Yes.
very popular.
Right.
So you may be able to do a video chat, to get the counseling sessions. They could get you your medications and other things like that you might need. But the point is to get the help that you need so that you can be the best person that you can be. As Erica
Hmm.
said, there is help available. Um, a lot of times we just have to reach out and not be embarrassed. I know that sometimes it's hard, when you're going through and you don't want people to know your situation. It's hard to be vulnerable, especially when you
Hmm.
haven't had good experiences, in your past with people. But
Hmm.
this is a time where you don't need to suffer in silence. If you know that you suffer
Right.
from anxiety,
Mhm.
depression, or post-traumatic stress, or
Hmm.
you're just nervous and you just don't know what to do, at this particular time, you've lost hope, your expectation is dwindling. Make
Hmm.
sure that you go ahead and reach out to get that professional help.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely
And
nothing wrong with that.
and then just be able just accept it. I mean, it's life, you know, and everybody have different things that they go through, different ways that affect. Or let me say it like this: everybody has their own valley to go through, and that just might be your valley. But if if you seek help, you can come out on the other side of that thing,
That's right.
and show
That's
people the
right.
proper way on how to do it and actually live a quality life,
Right.
you know.
Quality.
Mhm.
It's all about your quality of life.
Yeah.
We have a professional here that's accepting new clients during the pandemic, and she's giving her information. So there is help available. If anybody
Yes.
else is a mental health professional, knowing of resources and things like that, so that people can get the help that they need. This is what this is all about. Because, like I said, July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month,
Yes.
and we need to be aware of where we are in our mind. There's a lot of people
Yes.
suffering from grief and loss.
That's right.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't tell
Mm.
nobody how to grieve over the loss of a loved one. Or, and some people are grieving over the loss of relationships, the loss of marriages,
Hmm.
the loss of jobs, the loss of socioeconomic status,
Hmm.
the loss of social interaction. So there's a lot of different components that are happening that a professional counselor or etc. could help you come up with the coping mechanisms and the tools to maneuver through this, especially during this pandemic, because it is hard mentally because so many things have changed. Life as we know it has changed. And we can't say that it's ever going to go back to the way that it was. Trying to figure out, especially with our kids going to school, what are we going to do?
Who knows?
Somebody worried about that excessively.
And that's added stress. That's added
Yes, it
stress.
is.
Are they going to be home, a certain amount of days in the week? Are they going to be at school? Can I afford internet service? There's so many things that we go through, and sometimes we feel like we're losing our mind. And but there are people that we can talk to. If you don't have a close, support system, there are professionals that you can talk to that are of good rapport, that will keep your information confidential, and that will help you progress through this time of uncertainty. So do you guys have anything else to say tonight?
We really appreciate. Thank you, Tracy, and thank you for everybody who chimed in. Mental health is so important. You have to be healthy in your body as well as your mind, as well as your spirit. So it is important. So take care of yourself.
Yes, indeed.
Make sure if you are on medication, take your medication as prescribed. Even when you start to feel better, make sure you talk to the professional before you stop the medication. If you feel like you are in a place where you really need some help, make sure that you reach out to get some help. There's been some help offered here on Life in Sync, and we surely do appreciate that so much. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and we hope that you've heard something that will make your life better. And we just want you to keep living life in sync, and have a great night.
Good night, everybody.